their nose on the enemy aircraft. Your nose on the enemy's tail and use a weapon.
And the Immelmann is still a kind of known procedure, and of course that was from the German personal operator. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? You really do get a sense of a totally different type of air combat with these machines, don't you? And it's interesting, I remember talking to Tom Neal, Battle Britain fighter pilot, one of the first Allied pilots to land in Normandy on D+1. Incredible career. He's flying Hurricanes with 219 Squadron on the Battle of Britain. I remember him telling me that the ME-109E could do the three things you needed to do in air combat in 1940. It could climb very fast, it could dive very probably.
No tail wheel like on some of the
just a tail dragger.
Tail dragger, quite literally a tail dragger, just a skid at the back there. No brakes on his aircraft, likewise with the three Tiger mods lined up in front of us. No wheel brakes, so he's using the friction on that skid to help slow down once the tail is down.
But Tom Neal said that
When you go home tonight,
cultural history, military history, huge place in the hearts of, I'm sure, of everyone who's here today. They are amazing aircraft, a wonder to behold. Aside the morning, aside the Griffin as well, we're going to see some Griffin engine Spitfires as well, increased horsepower, and of course the fact that you can have these engines, Spitfires coming into service in the middle of the war is testimony to the fundamental brilliance of the design. You can adapt it, it's in many ways a completely different aircraft, but it looks absolutely distinctively like a Spitfire, whether it's a Mark 1 or whether it's a Mark 22, or whether it's a Mark 14 with a Griffin engine in it. No one can mistake a Spitfire when they see it. Even the ones with the electrical wings cut off. The amazing thing is that, of course, Mitchell is rightly lauded as the chief designer of Superman and in fact of the Spitfire, but it's very much a team effort down there.
So is it a 7 get airborne from over right? Very different sound to the Griffin engine of our fighter reconnaissance. So a fighter reconnaissance version for those who saw the aircraft taxi out from the flatland, big porthole windows on the sides of the fuselage for the reconnaissance cameras, but they're also armed, whereas one of the other aircraft that just got airborne was a PR-11, so photo reconnaissance wasn't armed at all, just a photo reconnaissance aircraft, unarmed. But this is an FR, the fighter reconnaissance version.
And it's important to remember that it wasn't just Mitchell, there was a team of designers. Joe Smith, who was the assistant chief designer, took over from Mitchell when he sadly passed away. Beverly Shenstone and Al Faddy. And it was Shenstone, Smith and Faddy who were really responsible for the elliptical wing rather than Mitchell.
Talking about designers and Spitfire related, a little pub quiz fact for you. Do you know pushchairs?
You could fit into the back of a Nissan Micra.
Or a Mini. There you go, pub quiz fact.
But actually Beverly Shenstone was Canadian and had actually done some time working with Junkers in the late 1920s, early 1920s.
Might as well just stand in the
So
way.
creating the Spitfire, a modern single-engine fighter plane, was a departure in many ways.
Another pass in from the right.
So
figure they're doing there, Mike? Looked around sort of 250, 280, somewhere between. Nothing aerobatic so far. I can hear on the radio, the other 7 are joining up into formation. We're going to get a real well over 400. Oh, easy, absolutely. They are. That was the difference between the Mark 1 up to the later Marks, as you just said. Right, it looks like the Griffin aircraft are now peeling out to the south, where I'm sure if you look behind you, you can see 7 aircraft already in formation. Those 2 14s are going to join into the rear Vic. So the 3 ship is called a Vic formation. And there are 3 of those once the other 2 are join at the back. Being led expertly by Paul Bonham, who you saw displaying the Fury earlier on. He's the leader of this 9 ship. So in the lead we have a Mark 9, MH434. In the number 2 position, Nick Smith. He is flying a Mark 5, EE602. In the number 3 position, there's that PR11 I talked about. That is being flown by Martin Overall. Here we go, coming in from the right-hand side. At the front, 7 Merlin-powered Spitfires. Get ready, people. And I'm going to fire now, I think. All aboard was the call there. So we're joining up into those 3 Vics I mentioned earlier. Number 4 position, flying EP120, a Mark 5 Spitfire, is Rolf Muir. And reversing to the left calls Paul in the lead there. Letting it out a bit, you heard Paul on the radio there. Letting it out means he's just releasing the back pressure on the control column, so less G. So he's catering for the wind there. What he doesn't want is the wind blowing the formation towards the crowd and coming closer than he's allowed, as dictated by the rules from the Civil Aviation Authority. So letting it out a bit, as he said, around the back, just means he can fly the formation without getting affected by the wind and blowing over the crowd line. Now tightening, that's the opposite. He's pulling back on the stick just to pull a little bit more G and tighten the turn to complete this flight past. Reversing right, said Paul. In the middle of the formation, furthest away from us now, but in the middle on the right hand side is George Hay flying his Suffolk Spitfire RW382, that's a Mark 16. And on the left wing of that middle formation is Ben Cox flying in ML407, known as the Grey Spitfire, two-seat version of the Mark 9. Leading the back 3 in a Mark 9 is Dan Griffith, and then he's joined by Alex Smee and Bryce O'Hain in the FR14s. This is the last pass of the formation, says Paul. After this, we'll be powering up for tail chase. So, in from the right.
Pretty darn good there.
I've got goosebumps. I'm sure many people in the audience have goosebumps too, but that sound is incredible. Truly magical. Powering up for tail chase now. They're going to split the formation, complex in itself, to try and get 9 aircraft now into a tail chase. So that's what they're doing over to our front left. I talked about tail chasing, the intricacies of using lead and lag geometry to keep in the formation, but Paul now going to lead a 9-ship tail chase. That just doesn't look real. It looks like one of those photoshopped pictures where you see one aircraft and time stills of the photos, but it is real, ladies and gentlemen. When they've been at high power setting all that time doing that tail chase, when they turn downwind, you've got to be very careful when to lower the undercarriage, because the undercarriage actually blanks the radiator. And then likewise, when you put the flaps down, it goes down the back of the radiator and just reduces the effectiveness on it. So you can actually see the temperature still rising, even though you've brought the power back ready for landing.
I think one of the things that's so interesting is the amazing design of that elliptical wing. As you were saying earlier on, Mike, it's incredibly thin. But of course it was designed to house 8 Browning machine guns rather than saying earlier on the much bulkier cannons. But what became apparent over the course of the Battle of Britain in the summer of 1940 was that you needed cannons as well as machine guns. And so here's a Vic of 3, look at that. I'll come back to the wings in a minute. Let's just watch this for a moment.
We're playing that game. Oh, I'm so clever.
like that one.
Expertly flown, led by Paul Bonner on MH434, Nick Smith in the number 2 position, and Ralph Moore in the number 3 position for some blue-chip formation aerobatics. So almost round off the Spitfire finale, but we do have MH434 the action. And 407, sorry, the Great Spitfire, led by Ben Cox, showing off those D-Day invasion stripes, those black and white stripes. We've been painting those this year to recognise the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Don't forget, you can fly in this very aircraft here at Sywell. Warbirdflights.co.uk. The back seat gives you a feeling of what it was like for all those pilots during the Second World War flying the Spitfire. You will have a magical time. It's a true honour to fly this aircraft and to give those passenger experiences. And the number of people that get emotional
He got very finished. He got very
is astounding.
that roll.
I said earlier about the privilege of flying aircraft that have such pedigree. Now this very aircraft you're watching display now and that you can go flying in was the very first aircraft on the 6th of June 1944 to shoot down an enemy aircraft over the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. It's a very aeroplane.
It's also one of the most original still flying, and this plane has so much history in it. It really does. It's an absolute remarkable machine. Most fighter pilots felt that the Mark 9 was the fighter pilot's Mark. I mean,
Oh yes, I'm going to...
I think it's the one that was most produced, saw the most service, flew at the most theatres. It's a remarkable example, and restored by Richard's father Nick Grace, and then flown by Richard's mother Carolyn. You know, she was an absolute pioneer aviator in a very, very male-dominated world. She was one of the most famous display pilots there was, and Richard, of course, has sort of continued that family history. It really is a privilege to beat all privileges